بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك وعلمنا من لدنك علما ينفعنا في الدين والدنيا يا كريم. Alhamdulillah, we continue our class in the Hikam of Sayyidina ʿAṭā rahimahullah ta'ala. And the last hikmah we took was when Sayyidina ʿAṭā spoke about the two main values that a Muslim should look forward to: obedience of Allah Ta'ala, and also not needing and not being needy of other than Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and that's importance. Sayyidina ʿAṭā now, he talks about a similar topic, and he goes on talking about what a Muslim should ask from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So after talking about what the true values of a Muslim are, he talks about what a Muslim should be keen on asking from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So if you were to be in a state of dua, or you were given the chance to make one dua in your life, and that dua will be answered by Allah Ta'ala, what should that dua be? What should be the most important matter to you that you would like Allah Ta'ala to answer your dua in? So he says, خير ما تطلبه منه تعالى ما هو طالبه منك.
The best that you can seek from him is that which he seeks from you.
Okay. So, as we know, Allah Ta'ala has no limits. And the keys of the samawat and the ard, of the heavens and the earth, are all with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So Allah Ta'ala could gift you anything He wants. And we are reminded here of the hadith of Sayyidina Abu Dharr in Sahih Muslim, where Allah Ta'ala says, Ya ibn Adam, so it's hadith Qudsi, the word of Allah Ta'ala. He says, Ya ibn Adam, لو أن أولكم وآخركم وإنسكم وجنكم اجتمعوا في صعيد واحد فسألوني فأعطيت كل واحد منهم مسألته ما نقص ذلك من ملكي إلا كما ينقص المحبر أو كما قال. It says that, O son of Adam, if every single one of you, including not only mankind, but mankind and jinn, pious and not pious, the people who have passed away and the people to come, if everyone got together, fi sa'id, so they got together on a land, and they all asked me for what they wanted, everything they wanted, and I gave every single person exactly what they wanted, that would not decrease my kingdom, just like if you were to put a needle in the sea and then take it out, it wouldn't decrease the level of the sea. And of course, this hadith is not literal, because the sea, there's a tiny portion of it that disappears, that changes if a needle was to be put in it. Allah Ta'ala, if He gives everyone whatever they want, nothing would change. It's all under His kingdom, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So there's no limits to that. That's the case. We could ask Allah Ta'ala anything. And a lot of Muslims, like we talked about this many times in the Hikam, they're keen on certain du'as, they want to get what they want, and they really use du'a to achieve what they want, which isn't a mistake, but we spoke about the adab of du'a and how that can sometimes interfere with adab. So Sayyidina ʿAṭā, if this is the case, he's trying to teach us what we should actually be keen on making du'a of. So he says that the best thing to make du'a to Allah Ta'ala is to ask Him what He asks you. What does that mean? So the Prophet ﷺ, he encouraged us when making dua to Allah Ta'ala to always ask Allah Ta'ala the best. Don't settle for the minimum, for less than the highest of ad'iyah. And he said, if you ask Allah Ta'ala Jannah, ask Him for the Firdaus. Now, if that's the case, okay, in this dunya, what would be the best thing to ask Allah Ta'ala? If we're going to go by the advice of the Prophet ﷺ in asking Allah Ta'ala for the best, Sayyidina ʿAṭā says the best thing is to ask what Allah Ta'ala has asked you to do. What does that mean? Basically, it means that Allah Ta'ala, He knows what's best for you. And He only ordered you to do what is best for you. A lot of matters that we do without guidance from Allah Ta'ala, they're our own ijtihad. We don't know if it's good for us or bad for us. We follow our nafs. Allah Ta'ala, when He orders you to do something, there's definitely good in it, even if you can't feel it or you can't see it. So if you want to achieve what is best, then look for what Allah Ta'ala has asked to do, whether that's compulsory asking, so fadl, or asking you to do, but not compulsory, so it's nafil. That's always also a request from Allah Ta'ala, and know that your maslaha and your gain will be in that. And subhanAllah, if you look into the ad'iyah, the du'as that the leaders of this path used to make, you find them all to be from this type. So the du'as of Imam Abu Hasan al-Shadili, Imam Junayd, others, find that the du'as all they all come from this type of mindset. So Imam al-Junayd, rahimahullah, one of his du'as says, Allahumma ja'al ghayata qasdi ilayk ma huwa lak, wa la taj'al qasdi ilayka ma atlubuhu mink. He says, oh Allah Ta'ala, make my priority when asking you and seeking you, okay, what I do for you and for your sake only. So make my priority on asking you whatever is for your sake, and don't make my priority on asking you what I personally wish for. SubhanAllah, that's one of the du'as of Imam Junayd that he used to make. So SubhanAllah, ask Allah Ta'ala to help you do what He's asked for you, because that is the best of things. SubhanAllah. So if Muslim, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, let's forget about the Sufis now, okay? Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, in the Quran, what do you say? رَبِّ جَعَلْنِي مُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي. Allah Ta'ala, make me a person who establishes salah and also my offsprings. So what Allah Ta'ala asked him, simple. And he was asking Allah Ta'ala to keep away from haram. A lot of the du'as of the prophets, Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, the same thing, Allah Ta'ala forgive me, and people who pray to Allah Ta'ala, وَمَنْ دَخَلَ بَيْتِي مُؤْمِنًا وَمُؤْمِنًا وَمُؤْمِنَاتٌ, they all make du'a for Allah Ta'ala to establish and to make the fundamentals of Islam strong with them and also their offsprings. So SubhanAllah, this is because I have that understanding. And Imam al-Izz bin Abd al-Salam, he wrote his famous book al-Qawa'id al-Fiqhiyya, when he talks about the general rulings where all the other Islamic ḥikam and jurisprudence falls under the 5 main rulings. And he talks about how every single ruling from Allah Ta'ala falls under the maslaha, under what is beneficial for the slaves of Allah Ta'ala, and how the whole Sharia is only there to actually fulfill the maslaha and the need of the slaves of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So if that's the case, if we're going to ask Allah Ta'ala for what He asks us to do, what does Allah Ta'ala ask us to do? Okay, what are the main things that Allah Ta'ala has asked us to do? Some of the A'immah have mentioned that Allah Ta'ala asks us to do 3 things. There's 3 main things that Allah Ta'ala wants us to do in our life. Okay. The first thing is at-takhalli. Takhalli means to get rid of, or to clean yourself from, to remove. Okay. So at-takhalli min kulli shay'in illāh. So to let go, to get rid of, to clean yourself from everything other than Him Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, other than something that is attached to Him Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, something that has something to do with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. The second one, after you clean yourself, is tahalli. So to fill yourself, or to basically to fill the emptiness. Okay. So tahalli bima yurdihi ank wa yarudduka ilayh. So to fill yourself after you've emptied yourself, fill yourself with what makes Him happy with you Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and what brings you closer to Him. And the third thing is ad-dawam ala dhalik, to be consistent with that until you find Him Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And SubhanAllah, Ibn ʿAṭā in the Ḥikam before this, he talked about 2 things. He said, al-ṭā'a wal-ghina bihi, being dedicated to Allah, worshiping Allah Ta'ala, and also not needing other than Allah Ta'ala. Even your own salah, you don't need it. You don't need Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So he mentioned this in another book. He mentions these 2, and also as-sidq, being sincere to Allah Ta'ala in your ubudiyah. These 3 actually, SubhanAllah, they are the same as the 3 that we just mentioned. And these are the main values for Muslim. The main values of Muslim is to understand to understand what is good, what is bad, what benefits you, what isn't, and then to follow istiqamah, to follow what you are told. Now, so Sayyidina ʿAṭā, after this, he says, الحزن على فقدان الطاعة مع عدم النهوض إليها من علامات الاغترار.
One of the signs of delusion is sadness over the loss of obedience, coupled with an absence of a resolve to bring it back to life.
One of the signs of delusion is sadness over the loss of obedience, coupled with the absence of resolve to bring it back to life. So a lot of us, when we have shortcomings, when we get, when we're slacking our ibadah, our salah, our awrad, our Quran, anything, sometimes you say, it's time to actually to question myself, to blame myself. It's time to do that muhasabah. Okay, but what do? We sit there and we just go backwards and backwards and backwards, and we fall into this small little hole in the ground, and we just tell ourselves we're useful for nothing. There's no point of us, and that's it. And so I always talk about, even our durus, even today, not in our durus, but even with the general public, that it's important that we don't mix, being harsh on yourself and questioning yourself with, subhanAllah, these kind of depression that shaitan wants to bring to us. So Sayyidina Āṭā is saying that action is not only just from shaitan and just depression and it's negative. No, he's saying that's actually a sign of illness. Okay, that subhanAllah, you're happy to put yourself down and not go forward. You're stepping backwards. You're choosing to step backward. You're choosing to bring yourself away. You're the one who chose that. You could have said, you know what, I've done so bad. I'm going to show myself, and I'm going to be 100 times better than I used to be. I'm going to force myself into changing. Yeah, you could have done that, but you chose to step backwards. So that's actually a sign of illness, a sign that you're attached to your nafs, and you're, subhanAllah, you're following your nafs instead of following what you know is right. And a lot of people, that if you tell them that, they'll say that, but I'm not good. I don't trust myself. I don't think I'm good anymore. I'm not for this. I'm not for that. That is all a sign of illness that needs to be healed. So, say the Imam Sharqawi, he says that this sadness, okay, is al-ḥuzn al-kadib. Yeah, it's fake sadness. It's not real sadness. Yeah, you're not actually regretting what you did. You're just using it as an excuse to get away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so the ḥuzn al-kadib, he says the fake sadness is when, subhanAllah, when you're not sad while working, when you're trying to, sad about your mistakes while you're working. That doesn't push you forward. Subhanallah. So, that's one of the most dangerous tricks of shaitan, that, subhanallah, he uses that sadness to bring you back. The true sadness of a mu'min is something that brings you forward, something that pushes you forward, something that, subhanallah, causes you to do. That's the only time when you know that this is actually from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it pushes you forward. That's the same thing. You want to make tawbah, make a sin or something, your tawbah should bring you forward. It shouldn't bring you back. SubhanAllah, that's why Abu Sulaiman Darani radiallahu anhu, he says, ليس البكاء بتعصير العيون وإنما البكاء أن تترك الأمر الذي تبكي عليه. He says, real crying isn't by juicing your eyes, by forcing the tears out of your eyes. That's not really what crying is. Okay, crying is to stop doing what you're crying about, to stop doing that mistake, to actually stop, to make a change. That's real crying. If one doesn't have any tears at all, but the sincere, Allah Ta'ala will give you more than He gives the people who cry out. And in Tasawwuf, a lot of times we talk about fake tears, subhanAllah, a lot of times. So if you just see someone crying a lot, that's not a sign that the person is, it could be a good sign, but it doesn't mean that, okay, this person is one of the awliya because they cry. Yeah. The only thing that we can really judge is a person's actions, a person's state and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, subhanallah, also Imam Ibn Ajiba, he says that there's 3 types of sadness. Okay, because Ibn Āṭā is talking about being sad about your mistakes. He says the sadness of the people who are fake, of the kadibin, people who are not sincere, people who are liars. And that is to be sad and to not step forward, to not change, to go backwards. And subhanAllah, the second sadness is the sadness of those who are truthful to Allah Ta'ala. And that is when they're sad, but it brings them forward, but it pushes them to change. Now, and the sadness of the Siddiqeen, or the people who are close to Allah Ta'ala, is that they don't fall into these mistakes. Okay, the sadness is about the times that they wasted not worshipping Allah Ta'ala. They regret any times it's not used for Allah Ta'ala, they regret it. Okay, he says, as for al-Wasilin, the people who have already reached Allah Ta'ala, there's no sadness at all. Yeah, because Allah Ta'ala says, Allah inna awliya Allahi la khawfun alayhim wa lahum yahzanun. So sadness is all, this is all different levels of reaching Allah Ta'ala. But once you reach Allah Ta'ala, there's no sadness. And so to be sad is not our goal in life. We're not looking toward we're not working to be sad. We want to actually reach peace and harmony. That khalas, we're in full harmony with Allah Ta'ala. And that's huge level, of course, that we ask Allah Ta'ala to give us. Sayyidi Abu al-Hasan al-Shadili, and we mentioned him today because today is his day. He says, من لم تطاوعه نفسه على النهوض إلى الطاعات وأخلدت إلى أرض الشهوات. Whoever's nafs doesn't help them to go forward and to worship Allah Ta'ala, and holds them down in the land of shahwat, of fitna. Their cure is there's two words that they should remember as a cure for that. The first one is to remember the blessings that Allah Ta'ala has bestowed upon you, and how grateful you should be towards Him, especially when it comes into Islam and Iman, your faith. So thank Allah Ta'ala for that. And the second one is that to always remember to always be in a state of tadarru', a state of closeness to Allah Ta'ala, a state of supplication, and always say, Allah, oh Allah, help me, and show that need to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And if you can't even do these two, then he says, فالشقاوة لازم, but good luck, there's no point in trying. If you can't, sincerely make dua and continue to ask Allah Ta'ala for help, and you can't remember Allah Ta'ala's ni'mah on you, then there's no hoping. No. He then says, رضي الله عنه, ما العارف من إذا أشار وجد الحق أقرب إليه من إشارته، بل العارف من لا إشارة له لفنائه في وجوده وانطوائه في شهوده.
The Gnostic is not one who, when making a symbolic illusion, finds God nearer to himself than his symbolic illusion. Rather, the Gnostic is the one who, because of his self-extinction in his being and self-absorption in contemplating him, has no symbolic illusion.
Shaykh Abdur-Rahman now is talking about something similar to the last state we mentioned, al-Arif. A person, a Gnostic here says, person who has reached Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, a person who really understands the reality. And subhanallah, of course, it's a huge terminology. Basically, he's saying that a slave should reach a state, and not everyone reaches this, okay, and doesn't mean that you're not on the right path, where you don't pay attention to other than Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala at all. Even your own attachment to Allah Ta'ala, that attachment you don't pay attention. Your worship to Allah Ta'ala, you don't pay attention to your worship to Allah Ta'ala only. You give and you don't even notice. That's the highest state of ibadah. That, it's a very high state. Not everyone reaches it, but that Sayyidina Āṭā is talking about the reality. The reality of a slave of Allah Ta'ala is that he should reach that state. And ta'budu Allah ka'annaka tarah, to worship Allah Ta'ala as if you can see Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. If you see Allah Ta'ala, would you be seeing anything else at the same time? You wouldn't. If you see someone you love the most, you would forget about everything else around them. If you see Allah Ta'ala, you wouldn't notice anything else. Then Allah Ta'ala, the Prophet said, فَإِن لَمْ تَكُنْ تَرَاهُ فَإِنَّهُ يَرَاكَ. The second level under that, if you can't reach that state, is to remember that Allah Ta'ala is seeing you. To remember that this action is for Allah Ta'ala. So you notice your actions, but in regards to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So Sayyidina Āṭā is not talking about al-Arif, but the highest state, and he says that it's not the person who basically نعم, who points to Allah Ta'ala, yeah? But the person who doesn't have any even ishara, any symbolic, he doesn't point to anything because he is disappeared in his witnessing, his shuhud of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So now this is really what a lot of the awliya used to talk about in their wordings, and when they used to explain the real reality of a proper slave of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Sayyidina Abdul Hasan Shadri has many words like this in his awrad and others. Also his Shaykh Ibn Mashish says شراب المحبة مزج الأوصاف بالأوصاف. He says that the real the sharab, not really drink, but like okay, so sharab in Arabic would be like, they used to use that for the word of like a tasty drink, like alcohol for some people would be sharab. So the drink of mahabba, of love, is to mix your attributes with the one you love's attributes, so you don't notice yourself in him. And طبعا we've talked a lot about this in past hikam. It's a huge topic, so inshallah we'll leave it there to this hikmah, and we'll go on to the next hikmah. So then he says الرجاء ما قارنه عمل وإلا فهو أمنية.
Hope goes hand in hand with deeds. Otherwise, it is just wishful thinking.
So, subhanAllah, this hikmah reminds us a lot about some of the wordings of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sayyidina ʿAṭā is talking about two concepts: raja, okay, hope with Allah Ta'ala, and that is something. The word raja, okay, in Arabic, in Tasawwuf especially, it's something that is recommended, something that is held to a very high rank. And then umniya is to wish, just to wish. Wish really doesn't have any basis to it. Anyone can wish. Okay, so you want to achieve raja, you don't want to achieve umniya, tamanni. Okay, the difference between these two is mentioned in hadith. Prophet says that the person who's lost everything is the person who tamanna ala Allah, person who just wishes. He doesn't work, he just wishes to Allah Ta'ala. So if you want to have hope, real hope only comes with action, with being serious. So just like the first hikmah we took today, that action is important, that doing is important. If you really regret your mistakes, you have to act. Okay, you have to show Allah Ta'ala. So many examples in the Quran, Sunnah, and the al-Ḥikam we've talked that just having the love in your heart and the feeling heart is not enough. You have to also act upon it. So Sayyidina Abdullah is saying even hope itself doesn't count if it's not hand in hand with deeds, with actions. Subhanallah, one of the lines of poetry that they used to sing is يا من يريد منازل الأبدال من غير قصد منه للأعمال لا تطمعا فيها فلست من أهلها إن لم تزاحمها على الأحوال. So, oh, you who want to reach the level of al-abdal, okay, you want to reach the status, من غير قصد منه للأعمال, without focusing, without paying any attention to your amal, to your actions, لا تطمعا فيها فلست من أهلها. Don't even think that you would ever reach them, because it's not for you. إن لم تزاحمها على الأحوال, unless you focus on your actions and you do muzahama. So basically you race with those people themselves, with your actions and your ahwal and your state. And your state is like them, only then will you be able to receive those levels. And this is the true meaning of the hadith where Prophet ﷺ says that Allah Ta'ala says, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي. Yeah, I am my slave will find me according to the state that they think about me. Whatever they think about me, I am there. Okay, so if you are close to Allah Ta'ala in your heart, in your spiritual state, then that also requires action, to be sincere about that. And the hadith we mentioned earlier is that Sayyidina Rasulullah used to say, al-kayyisu man dana nafsa. What's al-kayyis mean? Kayyis, person who's aware. Okay, like the person who knows what he's doing. Okay, in trade, al-kayyis will be the person who knows how to buy and sell without getting tricked, basically. So al-kayyisu man dana nafsah wa amila lima ba'da al-mawt, and works for what comes after death. وَالْعَاجِزُ مَنْ أَتْبَعَ نَفْسَهُ هَوَاهُ, and the person who is weak, who is who's defeated, is the one who follows his own hawa وَتَمَنَّ عَلَى اللَّهِ الْأَمَانِ, and just has false hope with Allah Ta'ala without bringing it together with any action. So that's the meaning of this hikmah. We'll stop here inshallah. Allah Ta'ala alam, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. There's a question in the chat. Does that mean that true friends of Allah Ta'ala will never be sad in this world? If we feel sad now of the trials of this dunya, does that mean that we are not the friends of Allah Ta'ala? No. So basically, having natural feelings is something. Okay, so you see a difficult situation, you feel for that. That's normal. Prophet ﷺ used to cry when his grandson passed away. That doesn't interfere with being close to Allah Ta'ala. But usually when we talk about these things, we're talking about it in a different context. We're talking about it in context of a person, regarding their relationship with Allah Ta'ala. Regarding their relationship with Allah Ta'ala, their ibadah, their actions, their happiness, their being content with the qadr of Allah Ta'ala. Regarding that, you don't feel sad. You're happy with that. There's no downs. Ups and downs happen until you reach Allah Ta'ala, then there's no downs, basically. In your life, you can go through difficulties and tests, but your heart is always attached to Allah Ta'ala, it doesn't change. So that's the real meaning of that. Wallahu Ta'ala a'lam. Inshallah, we'll stop here. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.